Welcome back to the MetaMinds podcast, a mentoring service helping conscious people destroy their limiting beliefs so that they can unlock the life of their dreams. And on today's episode, we had Giuliano Gonzalez join us. He constantly, throughout the entire episode, added value to both us and also you guys as well. Just such a lovely guy with such a curiosity for life. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I took away from this, just this kind of relentless curiosity towards people and, connecting with the right people and just had this relentless kind of, he just got rid of people in his life that just were adding no value to his life. He's very disciplined and considered, I guess, in all of his actions. Yeah, just so much in him.
He's an absolute savage. And dude, he starts talking about simplicity. He talks about how to add value to other people before asking for value in return. There's so much business wisdom here that it literally sounds like it's like you were talking to Warren Buffett or something. So yeah, without further ado, honestly, there's so much value in this episode. If you're interested in starting any kind of business, any kind of project at all, this is the advice to start with. Get hyped on this episode because it will get you hyped up. I'm going to go re-listen to it straight after this. So,
yeah, for sure. And if you guys want to unlock your dream lives, then we do have a 15 meta minutes where you can actually chat to myself. We go through the process of recognizing your limiting beliefs and recognizing your dream life. So if you want to hit us up on Instagram, we can go through the 15 meta minutes and start your dream life today.
And guys, Dan's a qualified counselor, and I've seen him change many lives by doing this. These starting off with these meta minutes and helping you achieve your dream life. So it's no joke. He will help you achieve things that you would never have dreamt of. So anyway, let's jump into the podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us, Giuliano. I know that we've tried to make this work a few times now, but here we are in the makeshift Zoom call with three of us in separate parts of Australia. So I think, just so people kind of get a context of who you are and what you do, could you tell us a little bit about yourself in 30 seconds, what you do and who you are?
Yeah, we tried to work it out a couple of times, so we're here now. So I'm super excited. Thank you so much for having me here. Now, who am I? I'm 25 years of age. I am from Sydney, Australia. I quit my job during COVID and I started a podcasting booking agency, which now has transitioned into a full PR service agency. So long story short, I just focus on making people famous and getting the message out there. That's it. Simple as that. People like to overcomplicate it. I like to keep everything very simple and systematic. So that's essentially what I do. And everything that I do is based online.
Yeah, right.
Love it. Simple is where I'm at, dude. I think it's so easy to overcomplicate it. And that's what your mind does all the time, isn't it? It's just kind of adds more fuel to the fire when you actually need to, keep the fire chill. That was a horrible analogy, but let's go with it.
It's true.
So, it is true. Yeah. So I love the whole keeping it simple thing. So just to kind of build on that, where did this kind of idea come from? How did you see this kind of gap in the market and what made you kind of jump on the actual idea and take action for it?
Dude, I had no idea how to make money online. A lot of people out there at the moment listening, right? They see all these cool ads and entrepreneurs and, they think, wow, they're making $10 million a month or $1 million, a year with this online thing is ridiculous, right? It's outrageous. Is it true? Is it a scam? So, it started out of frustration. I really wanted to learn how to make money online. And I told my best friend, Justin, I go, well, why don't we start a podcast called Millennial Success? And then what we can do, we can reach out to all the people that are making money online, be part of the circle, become friends with them, and then suck all the knowledge. And we're going to give them a free platform, right? Because everybody loves to talk about themselves. But let's give them the platform. Then we can get in, understand how it works, and then something's going to happen. That's literally the thought process that I had. So we started interviewing people like Matthew Lepre, all these cool guys are making a lot of money online. And, after 3 months, they're all our friends. And then they all started telling me, Jules, can you build a podcast for me? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll build a podcast. So I started building podcast, then managing podcast. And then what I understood, it's there's a lot of work around that and not too much money in return. Why don't I just focus on PR for podcast? So instead of me managing and building podcast, what I'm actually going to focus on is on booking people on other people's shows because I'm already doing it anyway. And then I hired 3 staff from the Philippines and my business sort of runs on automation. I don't do anything. All I do, I onboard the client and that's it. It's that simple.
Wow. And for you, when you initially started connecting with other guests, I know that we've kind of gone through this process, but there's a lot of people out there who are starting out creating a podcast, and I guess they don't really know how to reach out to guests or how to connect with the right people. Like, can you remember, like, if you cast your mind back to when you first started, like, what kind of advice do you have for people starting out? How did you connect with these people and get them on your podcast?
Number one is it's a numbers game. So the more messages you send out to people to be on your show, the likelier you'll get. But number two, I think it's really selling and trying to, like, if you're reaching out to your ideal guest, it's really selling not where you are now, but the dream of where you're going to be. So we used to say, hey, my name is Jules. I run this podcast called Millennial Success. The vision for the podcast is to encourage young entrepreneurs to follow their dreams. I've seen what you're doing on social media. I would love to learn a little bit more about what you're doing. Would you be interested in coming on the show? That's it.
Cool.
I love that. And that's like, it's really simple marketing that, again, a lot of people kind of skim over, that it's like, yeah, keeping it simple, keeping it fresh, where it's like you're presenting your essentially dream life, your dream vision of this podcast, and you kind of selling it to them, rather than just being like, hey, want to come on the podcast? And it's like, well, why would I do that? And it's like, it's interesting because we've had the same kind of experience, that we're kind of like, we frame it as we're hacking our way to success, because every guest we have on, we're going to take away some knowledge from you, and we're going to implement that into our life, into our business, and continue to help us get our dream life, so we're kind of on the same wavelength, which is cool to see.
100%. And like, for example, I've got a guy that reached out to me just literally today on Instagram. He's like, hey, what's good? Love to have you on my podcast. Would you be down? Literally, he just said that. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then he sends me the times on Eastern's, like on the US time. And I go, send me a Calendly.
Yeah.
Like, guys, make it easier for people to book on your show.
For sure. And the crazy thing is, like, you were the catalyst for us creating a Calendly, because like it was something that, we wanted to do, and it was something we're like, oh, it's just another thing. Like, we'll do it later. And I find this with so many processes, like the barriers that you've envisioned in your mind, or the things that you don't think you can achieve, are normally not actually that hard. Like, creating a Calendly is literally like a 5-minute process, and then it streamlines it for everyone. So everyone knows exactly what time they have to get on and when we're ready to jump on as well. So it's like, again, the barriers are normally just imagined. It's like these limiting beliefs that we create in ourselves. So you were kind of that catalyst for us.
100%. And like, again, just look at the most successful people. This is what I've done with my business. Like, I really understood and I really like what Jeff Bezos does. And he just focuses on the customer experience, and he systemizes everything towards the customer. So if you make, your customer's life easier on the onboarding process, during the process and post-process, you're going to get more referrals, right? You need to make it easier for people, because people are becoming lazy with technology. So you need to make it as easy as possible. That's what I think.
Yeah. In my marketing experience, when I'm, marketing stuff with clients and stuff, it's like when I do a bunch of split testing, it's like, you're dead right on that, because it's like, I'll create a split test where I'm like, I send someone to a landing page, and that landing page is supposed to do the converting and capture the email or whatever. But then often, like, the actual split test with the Facebook ad and capturing a lead on the actual Facebook platform, because it autofills, you get a much higher success rate, autofill rate, because people are just dead lazy. It's like, oh, I have to click a link to go somewhere to then do something. It's like, that's 3 actions rather than just 1 action. It's just click and it's automatically done. So I love that point, making customers' lives easy.
Dude, 100%. Like, if you look at, for example, one of my good friends, Matthew Lepre, right? He makes $1 million a month, and his landing page is 1 page. And it's on ClickFunnels. It's 1 page. His VSL, it's about 5 minutes long, and he's got like an application question, and that's it. Like, why do we have to go full out copy and everything? Like, just madness. Just keep it simple. Keep it so simple. Makes it easier for everyone. 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are some of the huge things that you've learned in this? I suppose it's been a relatively short journey through COVID. Obviously a bit of a stressful one with the whole COVID thing going on, but it's like, what are some of the kind of key takeaways you've had from some of your guests in this short period of time?
Oh, dude, the biggest thing for me is networking, networking very fast and move fast, being able to add value very quickly to anyone that you meet. Like, when you guys met me, I was like, dude, I can refer you right away to some people, and I put you in a group chat right away. Right? I did. That's the first thing that I did. So now if I ever need anything back, you guys are not going to say no. Because I've already given you value up front without saying, hey, I want something back. But if I did ask for something, I'd get it because I've already given value. So learning how to network and move quickly in the network up front is one of the biggest things, and what's really helped me move the needle forward in everything that I'm doing. Because you can't do this thing by yourself, man. You really can't.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a common theme in a lot of business leaders. Where specifically did you get that like value upfront method from?
Oh, man, honestly, I don't know. It sort of came up to me. I was like, this is the best way I can do it to add value. It just came up to my brain and I just did it. I didn't really follow anything. It was like common sense to me to do it, you know?
Right. You've probably gone through maybe some experiences where you've been given value and you've maybe felt felt through the process or felt like it was a valuable process for you.
Well, the thing is that I was in real estate, man. So when I was in real estate, you're used to providing so much value up front before getting anything back or any real estate listing or anything like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like in terms of, habits that you've developed along the way, like do you have like a standout habit that you think has contributed to your success? Like you said, like connecting or marketing, but like, is there a habit that you think you've started that's really helped?
I think discipline is the biggest thing. Discipline with everything that I do. So if you don't have discipline, mate, nothing's going to happen. I think for me, that's the biggest thing, being very disciplined and having a no excuses mindset, just getting stuff done. People fuck around too much, man, online. People forget that it's still a business. You're just based online. Treat it like a business. It's not like, I'm just this online guy. No, it's an actual business. Treat it like a business and you're going to get results. That's it.
And what kind of processes do you have then to ensure that you are remaining disciplined? Because it's, easier said than done to go, well, we're just going to be disciplined. We're going to create this thing and that's it. And we're just going to keep pushing ahead. But what kind of motivates you to keep pushing ahead? And what approaches do you have to encourage discipline?
Man, I've got a relentless accountability mindset. So I meet twice with my team every day. So midday and then like at 10 p.m. at night, like relentless accountability. Like we're here first and foremost to obviously help the client, but to make money. Without money, we don't survive. So keeping that accountability, happening over and over every single day, it's what's going to help you move the needle forward. And also, I use a really good system. I'm not sure if you guys know about it. It's called Asana. And I track everything that my VA does and everything that I wanted to do. And it's freaking amazing, man. So good. So good. Yeah. But I guess in terms of what keeps me going, it's progression. I don't think the final destination is the goal. I think it's, the ongoing process of learning, growing, connecting with people. That's what really drives me, man. It keeps me going for real.
Yeah, nice. And like you said that, after in a few months, you're going to be launching this as a fully kind of filled out PR agency almost. So was that always the goal, or did you just start wanting to connect people together and then it's developed into this? Like, how do you process the next step or the next?
I love that. That's a good question. Everything that in this business thing, man, it's been sort of like an aha moment. So it started with, building and managing podcast. Then it transitioned from booking guests. And I had a meeting with one of my girlfriends. She runs 6 successful businesses. And she said to me, you know how people say you have to be a specialist on a certain area, like, podcast or email marketing, whatever. She's like, you need to be a specialist on PR. Think of it as an octopus, right? You're an octopus. Your big head is the PR and your tentacles is podcast, is articles, is TV, is Instagram growth, is Facebook growth, is YouTube growth, is TikTok growth. So you need to be a one-stop shop, because now moving forward again, people are becoming lazy. So if you're not a one-stop shop, people are going to go somewhere else, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so you said that you've got a team now. So was that how you initially launched the business, or did you just start on your own?
I started on my own, man. But when he got the thing, I understand what I'm good at. I'm good at sales.
Yeah.
Right. And I understood that very early on. So I made sure that I hired people around me. They were good at doing what I'm not good at doing. Right. Does that make sense? So if I wasn't good at admin, I'd get somebody to do admin. And at that time, dude, I couldn't afford it. Honestly, I couldn't afford it, but I knew that I had to do it in order for me to grow. So I started hiring people very fast. And I was like, well, now I have to make money.
Yeah.
I've probably gone against what everyone recommends is like, have a pod, be ready to, do it. I'm a massive risk taker. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to hire 3 people. I'm going to tell them what to do and I'll figure it out.
Well, that's another forcing function, right? Because that's gonna force discipline on you, basically. Because it's like, no, you have to do this now. Whereas if you're by yourself, like I've run a few businesses by myself, and it's so easy to just like justify not doing the work that you're supposed to do that day, and then you just kind of have a chill day, and you're like, yeah, it was okay. Maybe I'll crush it tomorrow, But it's like if you have people relying on you to pay them, then you have to get that money. You know what I mean? Like that's where like it helps you become disciplined, I reckon.
Dude, 100%. Like it's the pressure of, like now I've got 3 people that I have to pay every month, right? It's like, it's a lot of pressure, dude, as well. So you have to perform. Otherwise, number one, you either pay them and you don't eat, right? But not everyone can deal with that pressure. A lot of people see now, all these tech startups and people working online, like I can do that. And it's like, wait until you hit rock bottom when you're so broke, you can't even buy noodles. What are you going to do? Are you going to sit in the corner and cry, or are you going to pivot? Like I've been like, I think about a month ago, I was the most broke I've ever been in my whole life. I made a wrong move. I made a lot of money, I think in December, and I got excited, like putting money on the stock market, right? And I lost all the money.
Oof.
Like I'm talking like a big chunk of I just lost it. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? But that put me in pressure mode, right? I was like, I have to make money now, I have to make money, I have to make money, I have to make money. Boom, made money. I almost made all that money back in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Sure. So when you put yourself in uncomfortable positions, that's when you grow.
Yeah.
That's when you really grow.
And you said there, like a key thing that we've taken away from a lot of guests is, like if you have an idea of where you want to go, like you've created this dream life in your mind of where you want to be. And then, you hit a few walls. Like one of the key things that we've taken away is kind of got to pivot, like if you're hitting a wall, like you've got to pivot, but not pivot to the point that you change the industry that you're focusing on. Like you still keep your core there and your why and your dream life, but you've got to pivot and take a different approach. So is there anything within pivoting that you can talk about that's maybe come across as like quite helpful for you? Because that advice is great on the surface, but like how do you actually take that practically and pivot, but not pivot too far away or waste your time pivoting in the wrong direction, I guess?
I love that. Yeah. A practical advice is I'm really good at sort of removing myself from my actual self, if that makes sense. So I look down and I'm like, what does Jules need to do now? What's the logical step? Not emotional, right? So I remove the emotion out of it and I understand the most logical step. What's going to get me from where I am today to where I need to go? Once I understand that, then I look at the actions that I have to do. I write them down and I make them happen, right? I'm not big on emotion around business whatsoever. I really not. I literally have zero emotions around business. So, when something goes wrong, I literally stop. I look at the logical answer. I don't focus on the problem. I never have focus on the problem. I always focus on the solution. What is the solution now? Because the problem is, it's already happened, dude.
Yeah.
You can't change the past, but you can only change the future. So if you ever feel like you're stuck in a place where you don't know what to do, guys, the best advice is to remove yourself from that problem. Take some time off, dude. Take 30 minutes off, right? Cool off. Let your emotions go. And then look at the most logical step, write it down and make it happen.
Nice. So just to like build on Dan's question there, like to cast your mind back even further, like if you picture, little Jules, like, 5-10 years old, do you think that he, like your current mindset was kind of always developing then and you kind of always thought you were going to end up in a position kind of like where you are now? Or did it just kind of happen given the events that kind of happened and then it happened into the next thing, like did you always kind of see this life for yourself?
Yeah, dude, I'm a winner. It's never been a doubt in my brain that I'm a winner. And I can't explain why though. Growing up, like I can remember, I don't know if you guys can relate. I watched a lot of Disney movies growing up and a lot of those movies give you hope of success, right? And when I was little, I was like, I'm going to be like Hercules. I don't know why, but that really stuck on my brain. And since I was 6, I've always thought, I'm gonna make something big out of myself. And I know that this is only the beginning. it hasn't even been 12 months that I've been working online, and I've been doing it full time. So it's crazy, man, how it's crazy how things can change so quickly when you take action. And people need to understand this, right? For example, again, I always name Matthew because Matthew is such a good example, and you guys will speak to him eventually. Like, he's been going on with this internet thing for 6 years, right? In 3 years, like 3 years into it, that's when things started really happening for him. And he's 28 now, and he's absolutely killing it. But he's the most humble dude. You'll see him. But he's someone that really inspires me to just keep going. And I think this is another really important thing, guys, to surround yourself with winners. Today, I cut off someone that I had in my life for a few years. I just cut them off because they're just not serving my purpose. You have to be ruthless with your network. I'm going to this point now. I'm going to stop following everyone that I actually know. And I'm only going to focus on following people that are going to help me level up on social media. That's it. Like my mom, my dad, my girlfriend, out. I'm not following them because my Instagram is my business.
Yeah.
That's where I make all my money. I can talk to them on Facebook if you want.
Yeah.
That's a savage mindset. I really like it. And that's been something that's really helped me develop in the last 6 months as well. Is like, you really do have to be savage with that. Is like, the question I ask myself is like, is this content adding value to my life and my dream life? Because it's like, if it's not, cut it out. And that's the thing, and if your friends, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're not following me on Instagram. And then they unfollow you. It's like, I'm not going to sink to some petty little stupid thing. It's like, no, I only follow things that add value to my life. Like that is where I'm at,
100%. I'm such a savage with this thing, man. Literally, I just block people. I don't even tell them. I just block them. Literally, I just do because like I really know I really understand where I want to go. And if those people are really not serving my purpose, they're out, dude. They're out this quick. I don't need them.
Yeah, that's it, man. And like, our brains are just a sponge. So if we're like absorbing like toxic energy, or if we're absorbing content from people who aren't inspiring us or just maybe pulling us down or adding no value to our lives, then, you kind of are the product of the people that you spend your time with. So it makes just so much sense, like you
100%
have to do that.
I want the listeners to think about this. Have you ever seen $2.75 million on a savings account on CBA, on Commonwealth Bank, like with your own eyes? I have. And once you see that, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Especially from people that make money online, you're like, it's possible. I can do this. So, surround yourself with people that are doing well. But the question is, then a lot of people are going to be thinking, well, how the hell do I do that? I have no value to add. Dude, find a way to add value. Like you can't message people and be like, hey, I've got this idea. I'm starting this business. I know you're doing well. Can you help me? Dude, what the hell would I help you? You're a random guy that messaged me on Instagram. What value can you add? Think about it. Like that's really important. If you can't add any value, no one's going to help you. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like within, just to pivot a little bit, like within the podcasting space in general, like what surprised you about that space so far? Like it's ever evolving and changing, and it's gonna at some point maybe hit saturation where there's just so many people doing podcasting. Like what surprised you about that? And also like what do you think can help people to stand out, like besides adding value? Like do you have any ideas around that?
The thing that surprised me the most is the power of networking and leverage. Networking and leverage 100%. So the networking, the amount of growth that you can do for your personal network through podcast, it's insane. Like now we're going to launch a new podcast that's named Celebrity Talks, and we're only speaking with verified people on Instagram. Cool. Because we're going full PR. So we're going to be doing giveaways with all these people and all that sort of stuff. So I think the power of leverage and networking, but also how can you make your podcast stand out? I think it's really important. And I think you've got a Facebook group. Do you guys have a Facebook group?
We do, but we need to flesh it out as such, but it's there.
Very powerful, and also giving a lot of value for free in the sense that, if you have a CTA, like a call to action at the start of the show, welcome to another episode of X, Y, and Z. The episode is sponsored by X, Y, and Z. Actually, guys, we put together a mini course on how you can actually start a podcast in less than 24 hours. Click the link below and download it. So then you can grab emails, like, I don't know, like the best way to grow your audience is I think personally, by capturing data, right? And retargeting that data all the time. You can put like cool content out and all that sort of stuff. That's all good and great. But I think if you're not providing free value up front all the time to people coming into listening to the show, they're not going to stick around because there's so many podcasts out there, man. There's so many shows, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you're a small podcast, I think you should really focus on giving free value up front, whether it's a mini course, whether it's a PDF file that people can download and then opting into something else, maybe opting into a Facebook group. I think that's the fastest way to grow it.
So just to dive deeper onto that question, like, it may seem really simple to guys like you, for example, but potentially a lot of listeners out there may not kind of understand exactly how to pinpoint like the value that they have to add to people. Is there any potential questions or maybe exercises that you have so that people can realize where the value is that they can add to people or businesses?
Yeah, let's use your business for example, right? You guys specialize in mindset, right, and growth, right? Yep. You could put together a mini course on how you can pivot on 2021 through COVID-19, right? 5 things that you must know in order for you to pivot on this 2021 pandemic, right? And it's a really small course that you can do, or really, you can do a 5-page PDF file, like giving people proper advice on what to do and how they can actually get started with a podcast or with an online business, right? But before they even do that, they actually opt into a Facebook group that you have. And you do all of these through ClickFunnels. If you don't know what ClickFunnels is, put ClickFunnels on YouTube and you'll understand how the whole thing works. But essentially, it's just a sequence of landing pages that can, take people through a buy-in sequence, right?
Yeah, I've aggressively listened to all of Russell Brunson's book. He's a genius.
Yeah, he is. But like, what do you think? Like, do you think that that's something that you guys would benefit from by doing that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's just, basic like lead generation tool. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's it's a good value add essentially. Just lead generation, which is good. I guess the question was coming from more like, maybe people that haven't even started anything yet, but I suppose you kind of do need the context of like what it is that they are doing for you to actually answer that question specifically. But that was a good answer nonetheless.
But it's all right. Like, just dive deep into that. Like, let's dive deep into that. Like, reframe that question, then we can answer it, because I'm really interested in answering that.
So like, okay, for example, here I am, I'm sitting here, I'm listening to this podcast and I'm kind of hyped up on what we're saying and it sounds really great. And I feel like I have some value to offer the world. And I'm getting the point from you where it's like, yeah, you know what? I agree. I have to add value before I actually, can get value in return from other people. You can't just ask. You have to give and then ask. But how is it that I can figure out, like what my value is to actually add to people? Like, I'm stumped. I just have no idea what it is that I can add value to people and then ask in return. You know what I mean? Like, what should I actually do in this situation?
Are you talking about someone that doesn't have a business that obviously follows the content and then they want to reach out to someone else to get help?
Yeah, so it's like whatever their niche is, even if they're like an artist, they're a painter or whatever it may be, they maybe want to start a business or they just want to be an artist or just want to create some kind of content or create something of themselves, but they're not even sure, like where would I start in realizing what value I have to offer somebody else before I actually ask for value?
Honestly, it's this simple, right? This is exactly what I did. We had no idea what we were doing when we got started with this whole online thing. I would start a podcast about what you like. Like, if you want to learn off people, start a podcast around them, right? Start a podcast, let's say, if you want to become an artist, right? Start a podcast around music and rappers and, people that are in the performance space. And then reach out to all those people. Say, hey, listen, I've got a podcast. This is what I talk about. I'd love to have you on. Simple as that. When they come on, you interview them, but you also build a relationship, right? After that, you ask, well, do you have any 2 people or any 2 friends that you can refer me, right? So then you've got 3 people coming on the show through referral base. I think that's the easiest way, man. Like, getting started with a podcast. It's so easy. Like, you can literally set up a podcast in 24 hours. People don't even know that, right? I think that's the easiest way to do it.
Nice. Yeah, that's the specific answer that I was after. And just to build on that even more, we have a friend that kind of started a podcast kind of shortly after us in Brisbane that is actually in the music space. And that was literally it. He started from nothing, got people on, and there were smaller people, and then asked for referrals. Slowly got bigger and bigger people. And now he's hosting, I think, 3 podcasts, and he's absolutely crushing, and everybody knows who he is in Brisbane. He's created a bit of a name for himself. He's created some kind of local authority. And then all of a sudden everyone perceives him to be this value or, authority kind of thing. And he literally started from, 6 months ago, literally that is like, I'm passionate about this. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start talking to people in this niche. And he's just crushing it like almost a year later. So it's insane to see that, that specific example is like dead right. You know what I mean? And
Dude, how epic is that? How epic is that? Think about it, right? Like from being a total stranger that nobody knows who you are, what you do, to randomly studying a software thing called podcast, and then getting people that you always wanted to talk to on your podcast, and them then being your friends. Like, dude, I'm telling you now, like all the people that I hang out with now, 3 years ago, I used to look at them on Instagram and be like, oh my God, they're so cool. And then I realized when I was sitting in the penthouse, I was like, fuck, I'm here.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It happens so fast. So fast.
For sure. And I guess like also, like you were kind of alluding to there, like when even just in a podcast interaction like this, like there has to be some rapport building. Like you have to connect with someone. You can't be just robotic and ask questions. That you've got to kind of understand where that person is in the world and what they're experiencing. And that's kind of that whole the likability of someone. Like you have to, know, like, and trust someone. And I guess that is like a personality trait. Like, I haven't even met you, but you're a very likable guy straight off the bat. So is that something that you're aware of when you're trying to connect with people? Like, do you have, I guess, any advice for when you are trying to build rapport with people and you are trying to connect with the right people?
Yeah, dude, Dan really needs this advice because he's just not very likable at all. He kind of kills the vibe most of the time. Mostly me, like doing this whole podcast thing. So can you just specifically answer this question for him because he needs it, dude?
I'm just
help me now. Dude, honestly, I'm really interested about people. Like all like Dan, obviously, like before we came on the show, I also say, hey, let's go and grab a beer. Remember when I called you when I was in Brisbane? Like I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
It's because like I'm genuinely interested to getting to know you, right? I'm not coming in it with the, hey, I want you to like me so then we can do business together. If it comes together, great. But if it doesn't, well, it is what it is. It just wasn't meant to be. But for me, it's like I really focus on doing active listening and really digging deep on that person, like understanding like why did you guys start this podcast, or what's the reason? Like I'm asking you right now, like what's the reason why you started Meta Minds? Why? So
essentially we realized that a lot of the chats that we had, there was a lot of value to add to the world. And, a lot of it became very apparent that we talked about a lot of topics that perhaps weren't as commonly talked about in the specific way that we talked about it. And so we realized there was a lot of value for us to express to the world. And then we realized we could build on that by actually getting guests on. Because initially it was just kind of us. And then we were like, hey, we should probably get some guests on as well, So we still do a lot of solo casts as well. But yeah.
I love that. See, like there's a purpose behind it. And I guess what I'm asking now is, well, where do you see this going in the future?
Yeah, well, like as Dan might have mentioned, like we have a mentoring service essentially, which helps people realize their dream life by overcoming limiting beliefs. And we've had a couple of clients through that as well. And we are very close to launching the kind of public, now that we've had a bit of feedback on the service, we're very close to launching the actual kind of public service so we can go public with it, create a marketing funnel and get more people into that kind of space now that we've kind of tweaked the service so it's actually more optimized for the user experience, I suppose. But to answer your question, essentially just building on that more and more, building a larger community around that, getting larger guests on and helping change people's lives so that more people can live their dream life, because a lot of people don't realize that it's possible.
Talk to me about limiting beliefs. It's a big thing, isn't it? Like people have so many limiting beliefs about everything that they do. It's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, dude. So dude, if you ask us, what we believe is that anything that is stopping you from achieving your dream life is a limiting belief, right? Because we have a lot of beliefs as people, and a lot of the time they're limiting beliefs. So the stupid example we always use is that you believe that a chair is for sitting on, right? And while that is probably a practical belief, it's also a limiting belief, because you could be using a chair to play basketball with, but you don't believe that you can do that. So it's a limiting belief, So that's a silly example. But for example, like what Dan was talking about with the signing up to what was it? Calendly. He had a limiting belief, and it was like, oh no, it's gonna be too hard. Like I can't even. And it's like we don't even know where that came from, but it was a belief that just formed in his mind that it was like, no, it's gonna be too hard. And within 5 minutes, he figured it out, and it was easy. He said it was easy, dude. And this is what happens with so many things in life. Like that's a small example, but there's so many things in life that it's like, oh, there's no way I could be sitting in that penthouse in 3 years. A lot of people think that. And then all of a sudden, if you can realize that that's a limiting belief and then crush through that limiting belief, and you have a clear vision of your dream life, that's like all of the world's problems essentially, as well as some ego. You know what I mean? So if you can manage your ego, crush through limiting beliefs, then you can realize your dream life.
I love that. Look how passionate he is about it. I love that shit. Dan, What do you think?
And like just on a psychological level as well, like the way that our brain works just in general is we try to box things. We put things into a box because then it's less processing for the mind. And obviously the brain is trying to limit the amount of processes going into our daily life. So for example, with the chair example, like you just put it into a box. It's like, well, it's a chair. Or like with, anything, it could be, I'm not going to be a basketball player because, well, there's so many other people doing it. How would I be the type of person to be successful in that space? Or how would our podcast be a successful podcast? You're pigeonholing yourself, you're putting it into a category or a box. So anything, like Eamon said, is a limiting belief. Anything that we categorize or put into a box is potentially limiting your full potential. So it's the idea of like really exploring all the options and understanding that really anything is possible and perception is reality in the entire process.
I love that. And I know that you guys are very consistent. So you do this show every Saturday, right? How many shows do you do on a Saturday?
So we have turned it down a little bit because we have been focusing more on the business side, and the whole towards the end of last year, both Dan and I had really messed up schedules, so it's kind of hard to actually connect. So we have been doing it like once fortnightly now, but we're going to pick back up to once weekly. So we've got 2 shows booked today, and yeah, pretty much every Saturday from this point forward, we're going to have 2 to 3 kind of shows booked in. So we just have a big kind of backlog so that if we need to take some time off again, then we've got that consistency and that discipline, back to what you were saying before. So that's just there. If we have to take a week off, we've already got a bunch of podcasts ready to go,
I love that. And to the listeners, that's how you build a relationship. Like just being interested, like genuinely interested to what people have to say and the story, because everybody wants to be listened to. Everybody wants to tell the story, right? And it doesn't come from a place of ego, but from a place of care. So when you come from a place of care, you can build genuine relationships.
And dude, this is proof because you are practicing what you're preaching right now, because you've literally flipped the interview and you're interviewing us and you're being interested and you're being genuine and you're adding value. So like you're literally practicing what you preach, and that's a really good thing to see.
100%. And the other thing as well around limiting beliefs, it's like I always knew it's like I belong to that circle. I belong with the winners. So you can trick your mind in a ridiculous way. You wake up every day and you say, I belong here. I'm meant to be successful. Things will work out for me. But, one thing that we can take from the generation from the past is the amount of patience that they used to have. And I think that with everything so available nowadays, one thing that we lack on massively, I know I lack on it sometimes, is patience, right? Things are not going to happen overnight. Whilst you can take immediate action and move quickly, it's also good to understand that good things come with time, right? Patience. Very important.
For sure, dude. And so just to build on what you were saying there about limiting beliefs, like you mentioned when you were 5, you saw Hercules and you thought I was going to be like that. So you already had this mindset kind of starting to build then. And, I think both Dan and I are the same, is that we always believed that we were going to be this thing, and we started to build on it from a very young age. And it's only compounded since then, But I think in our experience working with clients, a lot of people aren't lucky enough to have developed that mindset for whatever reason, nature, nurture, there's so many variables, didn't actually have that I'm going to crush it mindset from when they're young. So the limiting beliefs, they run deeper than the average person, So for example, when you have a limiting belief, that's like, it's easier for you to see it and then break through it. But for the average person, or for a lot of people, they don't have these I'm going to make it feelings and mindset from when they're very young. So there's a lot of deep work that you have to do to unravel that. You know what I mean?
100%. And there's one thing that I do whenever I get stuck on a bad mindset or stuck in a hole of emotion. I sit down, dude, I put some music on and I just say, remember who the fuck you are. Remember who the fuck you are. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Boom, I snap. Like I really say that over and over. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Don't forget who you are.
Yeah.
And that kind of comes back to one of the activities that we do in the 8-week program as well, is that it's like what you're doing there is essentially like it's a mantra, it's a meditation. You're re-envisioning your dream life. You know what I mean? Because it's like it's easy to forget. But then if you sit down and remember, it's like, who are you going to be? And you really feel it. Then that's exactly kind of what you're doing there. It's just an exercise to remember what it is that you're doing. And it just brings the passion and the discipline and everything back up. again. You know what I mean?
100%. And I think a lot of people have to remember, and when you come into any sort of business, whether it's online or brick and mortar business, is know that there's going to be more bad times than good times. Just be aware of that. There's going to be more bad than good.
Sorry, literally at least like 30 to 50% of the podcast is just me ragging on Dan, and it's just like, dude, it's fun. That's the whole point, really.
That's the podcast, basically.
How good is that?
Like we have to wrap up soon, but I guess, you saying that you've connected with all of these amazing people who inspire you, and you see that they have big aspirations for themselves. What kind of things, like, are there 5 things that these successful people share? Like, are there 5 things that you can see in your network that they all share, that they're all consistently doing, that you believe leads to their success?
Number 1 is focus on one thing and just focus on that. Stop, getting distracted by the sort of shiny syndrome object. Number 2, discipline. Number 3, become really good at networking and adding value. Number 4, get a team as soon as possible and start outsourcing all your weaknesses. And number 5, be very, very selective with your clients or anyone that you bring into your business. I just fired a client yesterday. I don't have time for people that fuck me around, or people that are emotional, or people that, they're not here to do business, they're here to whinge. I give them all the money back immediately, because I've had too many bad experiences. Usually when a client complains or they ask way too many questions or they want a guarantee, it's always a bad client. And, we don't have a lack of clients coming in. So if they don't like it, they can find someone else.
That abundance mindset. I love it, dude.
100%.
And I love that Dan asked for 5 things and you didn't even hesitate. There was no like, oh my God, what are they going to be? Like, you could have just raveled off 20 if we asked you to. It's so good, bro.
I talk a lot.
No, it's good. Yeah, well, like, dude, I suppose we'll wrap it up there. Like, honestly, this has been like non-stop value the whole time we've been here, which is awesome. And really hope our audience has gotten a lot out of this as well. I suppose just before we bounce out, it's been fantastic to have you on. Any kind of parting wise words? I mean, you already just crushed it with those 5, but anything extra that if you could grab a hold of anybody that wants to be something and shake them and yell something at their face, like, what would that be?
Die with memories, not with dreams. That's simple. Die with memories, not with dreams.
Damn, dude.
A lot of you guys listening to these, again, you'll feel inspired, and that's okay. But do you want to feel inspired, or do you actually want to be one of these guys? Because honestly, like, there's nothing that separates you from me or from Dan or from Eamon at all. We all the same. We all have the same opportunities, but it's up to you to seize on those opportunities and change your life around. No one's going to come and knock on your door and give you $1 million. You need to go out there and find $1 million, because I can guarantee you, with 7 billion people in the world, you can definitely make $1 million a year. So that's it.
Awesome, dude. Well, yeah, I suppose there's can't really top that. So thank you very much for coming on, man. We'll pop all your links in the description for people to check you out. And if anyone needs some PR work, if you don't know that this guy's your man, friggin', I don't know what else you need to see, but this is all the proof we need. So,
oh yeah. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you having me on the show, and hopefully we can obviously keep in touch and do some business together in the future as well.
Yeah, nice, beautiful. Thanks, bro.
Cool.
Love that.
Thanks.